am I? Well, I'm in a new downtown metropolis that I've never been to before. I've been to the outskirts of, but not actually explored the city proper. Rochester, New York. The reason why we're here was originally to visit Seabreeze, a park just outside on the north shores of Rochester with a legendary coaster named Jackrabbit, which unfortunately, due to the weather that you see surrounding us and on the ground, has resulted in the park not being open today, and thus I'm now in Rochester. Really kind of just checking out this infrastructure, as I'm fascinated, if you've seen other city vlogs, by urban architecture. And there's certainly a lot of new building going on here in Rochester, which is fascinating that I did not know about. So come along. This certainly looks like a creative arts center that's being built among all these brand new townhouses that you see, called the Vita section of town, I believe. We're just on the eastern side of the downtown core and now making our way to the downtown proper. I'm hungry. Had a little bit of a disappointing day vlogging, as none of the places that I originally planned to be attending today have been open. So just for your insight, it's a Tuesday in late August, the last Tuesday of August as a matter of fact. Darien Lake, Seabreeze, and Niagara Amusement Park are not open. Fascinating, colorful building, however, here. The Strong National Museum of Play, as it is known. But we will not be playing in there today. Instead, we are going to be playing in the downtown core, which we are now headed towards. I will give it one thing though. It is certainly looking quite nicer and idyllic than what some have led you to believe Rochester is all about. Carrying on here, making our way to the downtown. It's not a very big town. Rochester, probably most well known as an industrialized center of Western New York, on the shore of Lake Ontario, of which its main competitor city in Canada is right across the pond, my hometown of Toronto. Kodak was headquartered here and still is, as per George Eastman, this being his hometown and where he established the legendary company that made a lot of us responsible for vlogging, among so many other things to this day. And some of us still have unused rolls of Kodak film in our fridges, like myself. Much like Albany, and from what I've seen of it, Syracuse, the downtown of these smaller New York cities tend to be completely abandoned. I'm not so sure you can go up that platform over there. Well, it is a platform that overlooks the waterfall. I am naturally curious, thus I'm going to go check it out. No entry beyond this point, so sadly you cannot go up to the observation platform. I think that's probably for obvious reasons. It's not exactly safe. It's a very clean downtown core though, I will say that. A lot of people talk about my town being one of the cleanest urban centers. It's not quite the case anymore. As you can see, Rochester, while being completely devoid of activity is at least clean. Now the facade of this building is very fascinating because, as you can see, it kind of looks like it's semi-collapsing as per the unusual sort of weaved pattern at the base, which normalizes at the top. 5-star blank plaza. Fascinating design. So we make our way around some old theaters that you can see directly ahead of us. Definitely a old hotel with an adjoining theater to it, which we'll go check out. This is Chestnut Street that we're on right now. It's the one thing that can be said about Americana in old American towns like this, as you can see in the interior of this particular building, which I'm really fascinated to go inside, as all of its original interior unfortunately it's closed and the entire building is for lease. You can see these classic furniture and this old style lobby in there with Art Deco New York posters. This was clearly a lobby for a hotel at some point. It is now just sitting here empty. It's a massive building. And you also have the Hotel Cadillac next door, another classic deco hotel, completely vacant, as is this one. You know, this area at one point in its life was very vibrant. This building dates from 1927. Kind of make out what it says in there underneath the blue of what this used to be, 50 Chestnut Plaza. It was definitely a significant hotel in its day. Now, sadly, sitting here without a point or purpose. Chestnut Plaza, it's open on that side. There's a lot of fascinating architecture in this city that has been preserved for lack of use, I would say. But without question, at the back of this plaza is a rather large theater here. The Montage Music Hall, established 2010. So now it's a live music venue. A very cool door. One thing I was proposing to my partner in regards to this Rochester trip is you can stay in some pretty high-end 4-star hotels down here for a very reasonable price. If you find yourself with a reason to come to Rochester, well, that's something that you can do here, and it's certainly something I would like to look into in the near future. Possibly to take in some of these classic buildings before they leave us. If they do. Certainly, it's really hard to talk about the future of this city, as it's definitely going through a transitional period as it tries to find out what that future will behold or entail, as it was a heavily industrialized city as its foundation, but it's not anymore. We are now at East Avenue in Chestnut, which is a little bit more of an active street. Still not much, but I think I might be going back down this way for food later, as there seems to be at least one establishment open there. is the courthouse that we were just approaching a second ago. This is another disused building. As you can see, the signage from many years ago. The Miller Center is a brutalist FBI headquarters reminiscent building. Another center for the arts from what it looks like here. They have no shortage of that in this city. Lots of theaters. They have the Kodak Theater, which is built in the old Kodak, still actually functioning factory downtown, or just outside of downtown. It's not too far from here. We might be able to swing by it later, if time permits. There's one thing about Rochester and its architecture, very distinctive, almost like a mini Chicago and its Art Deco leanings. Even with that building down there being a newer build, it still retains that original quality. We are now on Main Street, which is the main street of Rochester. So we get down. One of the most famous things about this city for urban dwellers is the fact that Rochester features its own subway system that was never completed, and I believe is just beneath this particular street. We'll do a little bit of investigating to see if that is true, but it certainly looks so with these very unique bus shelters that are not of this era for sure. Quite remarkable, actually. Maybe a newer build, but really just goes to show you the ambition and really optimism that they had for this city as far as where it was going during its heyday. Looks like the Christmas tree is already up here too. That's way too early. This building is known as the Penthouse. It's another probably an example of the former heyday of this particular city, as it was definitely built sometime, say, in the 70s or late to early mid 60s maybe, as per the styling. Would be quite a remarkable spot to do a late night photo shoot of some sort. Town Square. Carry on. Like I said, it's the Penthouse building. Almost no places to eat or even enjoy a casual drink here downtown. I'm sure that's not the case for the entire town. When it comes to downtown, no dice. Likely Rochester's most famous modern build building, although it's not that modern anymore, the Metropolitan, where Chase Bank is headquartered amongst others. Well, not headquartered, but at least in this particular region. I will admit though, as you get closer to this building, the architecture is far more striking than it is from afar. As these buttressed ends lead out to the ground, give you quite unique angles. The perspectives of the building. Gonna go and try and get a nice angle or perspective as the sun hits those buildings on the other side. Just gonna quick look at the lobby of the Metropolitan for you before we head back out. A little sign of civilization inside as well at Bar Bantam there. We are now approaching the shores of the Genesee River, of which Rochester is located. It's a fabulous little shoreline, actually. Well, it's not a shoreline, is it? It's a river. Features some nice bridges, however, somewhat Newcastle-esque with all of these bridges, I count. One, two, three, 4, 5 bridges, 6, 7 in the distance. It's a lot of bridges. It's a very cool little neat industrial core here as well. To an area called Times Square. It's a very cool looking restaurant. Possibly there's a restaurant still up there. You can see the old slips. A lot of history you can see still built into this minor port area. It's the main arena here, Blue Cross Arena. It's varsity sports and musical events and professional sporting events take place here. Looking back onto Rochester and the Hyatt, one of those places, as I mentioned, that you could possibly stay at if you were to come here to Rochester. I will say from my impressions is doing what I'm doing right now is not generally easy to do. You usually get some interruptions and taunts. Don't want to tempt anything, but have not received any of those yet. So, positive marks for Rochester. This Times Square building, the roof of it is fantastic. I have to get a shot of that, especially at this time of year. Or this time of day. Something to behold. Detail of which is not coming out in the video, I'm pretty sure. But the top of that building, spectacular. And then we get into the other side of the town, of which is more the old town than the side of which we just came. However, sadly, there's not much work or areas to convene and to move about, because most of these buildings are in the midst of being repaired, it looks like. Repurposed. It's brilliant. I just can't get enough, especially with this light. This quite stately and majestic building. And that quite impressive roof. And I won't lie, next time I'm in this city, I'm going to try to get up to the top of. There's an older industrialized area down there, or financialist area. We're not going that way, however. We could also go down this road further towards what looks like a major library. I tell no lies. I could probably spend the better part of a couple hours exploring downtown here. There is nothing going on. There's no even businesses really to enjoy, but it's fascinating to see, sadly, what was once a booming economy now kind of finding its next sort of phase of life. Arena was built in 1998. This is the County of Monroe Hall of Justice, which is very familiar as far as a looks perspective. However, this entrance has not been in use for many a year. The building doesn't look like it is either, but if you look into the finer details of the windows, you can notice that indeed it is still in use. Lights are still on. There's still plants inside. In fact, it's got this brand new entrance. I wouldn't say brand new, it's probably 20 years old. That leads you to the Hall of Justice. We're gonna go down Court Street here and back across the river, as there's one main feature of downtown that I feel I owe showing you before we wrap up this vlog. Yeah, I will confess, it's just fascinating, at least for myself, with or someone with a definite taste for history, to explore these Western New York towns that were once part of a booming industry. You also have them somewhat, actually they're peppered all over the states, especially in the Midwest, sadly. Exploring the history of what was a booming economy in a bustling city, full of entertainment, theaters, vibrant nightlife, all unfortunately now gone and either spread out to the outskirts and the suburbs, as per the urban sprawl of the 40s, 50s, 60s, or just not here anymore, period. Because the city now needs to find a new industry, of which will be the linchpin of its economy. Sadly, here in Rochester and in many of these cities, there is a lot of thought that needs to go into that as far as what their future holds. But you can just feel, smell, look, touch the whole history of what was these towns is very vibrant and still very visitable today. A lot of those turn of the century 20s era buildings just before the Depression, I would love to go inside some of those lobbies and explore more of the interiors of, and also find out a little bit more overall of the history of, say, a town like Rochester and what really got it going, which no doubt on YouTube there are plenty of videos of, and I'm a neophyte in regards to that history, as you definitely can tell from my descriptions. That all said, you have the Rochester Rapids here. See the original infrastructure for the slips and docks. Of what made this town a booming economy it once was. And maybe still is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's not the case. As per its stately public library located right on the shore of the river. Very reminiscent of the London Public Library, of which I am more familiar. London Public Library was significantly smaller, I'd say, but similar design. I am talking about London, Ontario, of course. And what I really like is the fact that you have these slipways right underneath the building. How impressive is that? I don't think I've ever actually seen that before. It literally makes the building feel like it's a power generating plant, or, which it might have been, but in general just makes the building feel like it's alive as per that design, which is very cool. You can see the Well, I've discovered it, so I think that we have one last destination to go to. Underneath this bridge, you can see the original subway for Rochester. I have been fascinated by this particular construction for many, many decades now, and it's shocking to think that this is the first time I'm actually seeing it. It appears you can kind of get a vantage point from that side down there, so we're going to go down and check it out. Without question, identifying the ambition of Rochester in its booming industrialized phase was the building of this subway, which was never completed through the downtown core. It is really such a short line, built with the optimism that the city would grow beyond this simple transit service that sadly never came to light, but is still available for people to see, and for those more intrepid to explore if they wish, but not recommended through this channel. I will admit, it is not too difficult to access as we near the entrance here. It in fact has its viewing platform at this base here as well. Fascinating history to this town, full of beautiful vistas like this particular one we're seeing here. Pardon me while I take a photo of this. Sadly, the plaque identifying the history of this transportation and commerce from Seneca Folding Place, Quad and Bridge. I'm trying to read as much as I can. Erie Canal. There's even a spider web on top of this, which is sad. You'd really like to see this actually taken better care of. Maybe it's a post-pandemic situation of which it's not really being done. But one would hope that if Rochester values its tourism, that will be sorted out. All that aside, what a fascinating industrial project, period. So you have some people at work, and that is it. can obviously get down there pretty easily because just to our left right now, there are people at work redesigning the interior. If we were to go down this way, you go into the depths of the subway itself. There you go. So you get the full experience there with inclusive. What a shot! What a shot! So that is the tour of Rochester. I am impressed with just a little wander around a town that you've never experienced before. You can find a lot of vibrance in life, even though it seems a very sleepy downtown core compared to what it used to be. Everyone seems friendly too. Even the graffiti artists in the tunnel that we're walking on top of right now were perfectly cool being filmed and shot. So hello if you're watching. But yeah, this town has got a certain vibe to it that I like, which is going to probably bring me back here again very soon. I obviously miss Seabreeze, so now I know a little bit more about Rochester. It'll give me an excuse to actually visit the town proper before my next visit to that park. You can see as the subway extended actually underneath the library building as it turned off and then carried on as well on the street that we're going to travel straight back to my car. Alright guys, well thanks for watching. That is a Rochester tour for you. Maybe there'll be another one in the future. We'll probably be back very soon here to Rochester. But for now, always enjoy.